Thank you all for tuning into another edition of Outside the Shop with me, your host, Daryl D. Lane, as always, where I get to talk about everything that I normally don't get to talk about in my regular sports podcast, Barbershop Sports Talk, which you guys can all find on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, wherever you get your podcasting apps or platforms from. Also, shout out to everybody who's tuning into this via YouTube live stream, Facebook Live, and Twitter/Periscope. Appreciate that. Also, share this however you are listening to the show. Was on a little bit of a hiatus. Did not do any podcast or do this little live show the last week. I was in North Carolina hanging out with a good friend of mine and his family for Mother's Day. So I was there for 4 or 5 days. But now we're back and we have the NBA playoffs coming. And also check out the latest podcast I just released last night, posted up on Twitter, Facebook. Today, I had a good friend of mine, Dakota Dean, come on, and we talked about the NBA. We talked about our 10 things we're looking forward to for this upcoming NBA postseason. We talked about the NBA Hall of Fame, Kobe Bryant, Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett getting in. Also, we talked about just some stuff that's going on in the NBA right now. So definitely check that out. We talked about the brackets as well. And where we're going to start with this show, and by the way, here's what we have. Rodgers, we have some Rodgers talk. We have some other QB news with Trey Lance. Kwame Brown, he's in the headlines, and NBA playoff brackets and New York Knicks, their playoff tickets. So first we're going to start with this, the NBA playoff picture. The bracket is set. The 1 seed is going to be Utah. The 4-5 is going to be the Clippers. The Clippers are the 4. The Dallas Mavericks are the 5. You're going to have the Denver Nuggets at the 3 seed. The Portland Trailblazers at the 6. And Phoenix is going to be the 2. Now, both Utah and Phoenix do not know who they will be playing. They can either play at the 9-10, there's going to be Memphis and San Antonio. At the 7-8, it's going to be the Lakers and the Warriors on this side of the bracket for the Western Conference. What I'm thinking is the Lakers are going to beat the Warriors in their playing game. The Lakers are going to be the 7th seed, so we're going to see a Phoenix-LA first round. And then in terms of the 1 seed, Utah, I think Golden State's going to get it and beat either San Antonio or Memphis. So we're going to see Utah versus Golden State. So the seeds are going to hold to form right there. In terms of the Eastern Conference here for the playoff picture, you have Philly's the 1. At the 4-5, you have the Knicks and the Hawks. Nobody thought that would happen to begin the season. You have the Bucks and you have the Heat, a rematch of last year's Eastern Conference semifinals. And you have the 2 seed, the Brooklyn Nets. Now, like I said, for the West, the 1 and 2 seed, Brooklyn and Philadelphia, they do not know who they're going to be playing. They the 9-10. And this on the Eastern Conference bracket, it's going to be the Indiana Pacers and the New Orleans Hornets. For the 7-8 matchup will be the Boston Celtics and the Washington Wizards. I think that we're going to see Boston and Washington both get in as well. And I actually think we're going to see Washington beat Boston. Washington's going to be the 7th. Boston is going to be the 8th. I'm looking forward to this. We're going to see the playoff games are going to start tomorrow. I'm looking to see how all this unfolds. In terms of interesting matchups to look at, a couple that I just want to peep all you guys do. Obviously, Bucks, Heat rematch the conference semis. I think this could go 6, 7. It's going to be really interesting, too, to see how Giannis has evolved, how Giannis can be as a postseason player. Also, there is the Clippers and the Mavericks. I think that's going to be a fairly solid series. So those are 2 series that I'm really anxious to look at. And obviously, you're going to have the Lakers and the Suns or the Lakers and the Jazz. I'm going to be really interested to see that in terms of how are the Lakers going to do? Are the Lakers just going to come out and just knock out one of the top 2 seeds just like that? And easy business. So those are some of the matchups I'm looking forward to. Now, in terms of this, next up, so the Hawks versus Knicks, that's going to be the 4-5 in the East, right? Knicks tickets are selling for over $1,000 for a ticket. And I believe these are for at worst, nosebleed seats. So the worst tickets in the arena. If you want to go see game 1 of this postseason, of their postseason game against the Atlanta Hawks, right? You're going to have to pay $1,000. That's a lot of freaking money. That's a lot of freaking money. That is insane. But again, the Knicks haven't been in the playoffs since, I believe, 2013 when Carmelo Anthony and those guys were there. Knicks fans, they deserve it. But it's going to be electric to see the Garden in playoff atmosphere. And damn, those tickets are highly expensive. So next up, Kwame Brown. So Steven Jackson, Matt Barnes, they host a podcast called All the Smoke. And during that podcast, they had Gilbert Arenas on, and they talked a little bit of trash about Kwame Brown, and Kwame Brown clapped back. I think he kind of called Matt Barnes ugly. He talked about Steven Jackson, said he's a boy. He said he has a blunt in his mouth, sagging, and basically kind of called about it. Then went on a huge tirade about how both of them aren't men. And then he talked about Kobe when Kobe scored 81, and he said, I was setting screens. And here's what I do want to say about this. And my dad always did this too. Kwame Brown is the easy guy to rag on in terms of number one overall picks being bust. But let's be honest. I think his career average? Wasn't it like 10-6? Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. But, he wasn't a bad NBA player. I mean, obviously he wasn't great. He never lived up to his expectations, but he wasn't fodder. He wasn't fodder. He wasn't a dude that was out of the league in 2 years or a year. Like, he played for about a decade and made a lot of money. Like, he wasn't a bad basketball player. I think that's the thing that people forget. And I can understand why Kwame Brown wants to clap back, because people are always talking about you have your name in his mouth and you're the butt of every joke. I can understand why that would upset him. So in terms of the NFL, Trey Lance rumors. The 49ers are looking to see how the rookie performs in minicamp. They're looking to see how he's developing in terms of the offense, how he handles the language, calls at the line of scrimmage. In terms of what's going on with San Francisco and Trey Lance, I think that they're going to have to start him. And here is why. To me, Trey Lance, he did not play last year. If he didn't play last year, if you sit him the whole year, that's 2 years he did not play football. I think he needs that development of getting on the field. Even if he's in a Taysom Hill-like role and you have Jimmy G starting. But this dude needs to be on the field, ideally as a quarterback. And you need to take your lumps. You need to take your lumps. And it might hurt the Niners to win a Super Bowl this year, right? But I think it's going to be better in the long run. I think you need him to learn. Like, I think there's only so much sitting, he can do before it's like, okay, right, I think sometimes you need to believe you can do it, not just, see and watch, but then you need to do it and see if you've learned those lessons and you can put those lessons to bear. And then Matt LaFleur, he says he wants Aaron Rodgers back in the worst way possible amid trade rumors. This is what Matt LaFleur said. He said, we still obviously feel the same way. We want him back in the worst way. I know he knows that, and we'll continue to work at it each and every day. Matt LaFleur knows what Aaron Rodgers is, but it seems like the Green Bay Packers brass didn't know when they decided to piss him off and draft Jordan Love with, I believe, like the 24th or 25th pick in the NFL draft a couple of years ago. You're begging, you're like, baby, don't leave me, baby, don't leave me. But then it's like, she leaves you anyway. And that's all we have for this edition of Outside the Shop. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Share this whoever you're listening to. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Have a great day, and God bless.